Welcome to LAH-TEE-YAH in the Lead podcast, a podcast where we lead meaningful conversations that intersect the block and the boardroom. From pop culture to politics through ethical entrepreneurship, we are laying the groundwork for unity in our community. We're glad you're here. Enjoy the conversation. Good evening. Welcome to LAH-TEE-YAH in the Lead podcast. My name is LAH-TEE-YAH and I'm your host. Thank you so much for joining me again, guys. This is episode 17. Can you believe it? We are moving right along. It doesn't even feel like it's been 17 episodes, y'all, but here we are. Thank you. I would not be here if y'all did not continue to show up. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being in community with your girl. Y'all, there was another assassination on the president's life. Or was it? Let's get into it. We're talking current events. So on Saturday, April 25th, they held the White House Correspondents' Dinner. And there was another assassination on the president's life. So it appears. Personally, I do not believe it. It feels and looks staged. It looks and feels like a distraction to cover up the distraction, to cover up the distraction on the way from the distraction going to the distraction. That's what it feels like. Anyway, a gunman supposedly bum rushed the first line of FBI agents, and he was headed into the White House Correspondents' Dinner to do away with all of the top officials. Yeah, this feels like the president making a play for that $400 million ballroom that he wants us to pay for. That's all it is. And coincidentally, after the shooting, he was on your screen talking about how important it is for him to get that ballroom. I swear, there is absolutely nothing that these people will not do or say, and that's why I believe nothing of what comes out of this administration. I am sorry. Everything to me feels like a hoax because he has proven himself to be a liar, and the people around him and the people who work for him have proven themselves to be on board with his lies. So we're not going to spend a whole lot of time on this. I think there was one person who may have been shot. I don't think anyone was killed. One person was shot. The gunman didn't get far. They detained him at the scene. There's a lot of footage out there, and it just feels very Trump administration-esque, and we're not spending a lot of time on it. So, moving right along, staying right in this administration. So, I might as well warn you, today's current events is Trump administration heavy because these people are out here doing all the things for all the wrong reasons, and so they are in here a couple of times. Now, this may come as a shock to some of you, but Donald Trump nominated a black woman for the CDC director position. Yes, he did. This woman's name is Dr. Erica Schwartz. By all accounts, she has all the credentials and all the things. And according to her bio, she has held a number of very prominent positions. She is a retired Coast Guard admiral, and she actually served in his previous position as the Deputy Surgeon General. Now, I know a lot of y'all are scratching your heads because she is a black woman. However, she is not like us. She is very much associated and akin to the Republican Party. And she is very much on board with Trump and his policies. And thus, you have to only conclude that she is not a for the people girl. So she is moving up in the ranks because as long as you are a Trumper, you will move up in his administration. Once his administration and this party is done with you and you have served your purpose, you will be ousted amongst the others like the Candace Owens and the Omarosas and all of those who have jumped on the Trump train, and at some point they got pushed off. And so I just hope that she realizes her position and realizes that she is going to be set up to be the fall girl when the least of anything happens. God forbid there's another outbreak of anything, because it will fall squarely in her lap. Now, if she were a sister, she would not be vying for this position under this administration. So that should tell you, the fact that she is going through confirmation hearings in the Senate should tell you everything you need to know about Miss Erica Schwartz. Moving right along. So, continuing on with this administration, they are out here doing a lot. The director of ICE, Todd Lyons, is resigning. They are leaving this administration faster than they came in. The director of ICE is retiring as of May 31st. He has been the acting director of U.S. Immigration and Custom Enforcement since March 9th, 2025. So he has barely been there a year, but he is the culprit responsible for all of this ICE activity all over the country. Now, there are speculations as to why he is resigning. Of course, we don't know, won't know until they eventually put their books out. However, there has been a lot of scrutiny with regards to the ICE tactics, mostly by the Democratic Party. The Republican Party, outside of a few of them, hasn't really had any issue with how ICE has been carrying on. I mean, I would probably venture to say that part of him leaving, if not the exclusive reason for him leaving, is this record long funding lapse that has been that has impacted ICE. The ICE agents, the investigators, the administrative staff, the attorneys, none of them are being paid right now, because the funding to pay them is actually held up in Congress. So, I mean, that not getting paid thing gets old quickly. And so I don't know, but I'm sure that he will be replaced with the next administration degenerate soon enough. Continuing on in this administration, so the Supreme Court has determined that those tariffs that the president was charging American companies and importers was illegal, which means that those companies are getting refunds. Yes, you heard me correctly. Those companies that were paying the tariffs are due to get refunds. And man, y'all, this is the greatest heist of this country that we have ever seen. These people are making billions and billions and billions of dollars, and they are all in on it. Now, the companies obviously complained when they were hit with the tariffs. What did they do? They increased prices, right? Who paid for that? Who paid the increase? We did. So now they get to double dip, because they are going to be refunded for the tariffs that they paid. And not only that, they are not going to drop the prices, because we have shown that we will pay the higher prices. And on top of that, we're not getting our money back. So we as the consumer, as the American people, we are the ones getting screwed. So, man, it's a shame. And I was getting ready to say it should be illegal, but it is illegal. So, I don't know, y'all. I don't know. We as Americans have not gotten to the point where we are really tired of this, because we are continuing our lives like it's a normal day in America, when it is not. And so until we rise up, until we have had enough and we are out in the streets, then they will continue to do what they are doing. So, no need for us to spend a lot of time on it. I'm moving right along. Palantir. No doubt you have heard a lot about Palantir, who is founded by Alex Karp, who is one of the people driving this techno-feudalistic economic system that replaces capitalism with tech giants who act as lords, and the rest of us are serfs who essentially pay to participate in that system while they monetize and create digital wealth through our online behaviors. I mean, I'm sure that there is a more eloquent description of that somewhere, but basically that's who he is, and that is what his goal is. Now, I am not on X, but apparently he put out this manifesto on X, this 21-point manifesto where he is describing what the United States of America needs to be. This is his own version of Project 2026. One of the points in his manifesto said that not only should ATO girls be automatically registered for the draft, but women as well. He feels like it should be all of our American duty to serve in the armed forces, whether we wanted to or not. And if you look at him in any interview, hear how he speaks, hear what he says, watch his mannerisms, having had the experience, life experience, book knowledge, having studied the behaviors of addicts, it is, in my opinion, that his behavior quickly identifies as someone who keeps their face in the candy. All of them though, all of them. Elon Musk always looked like he's hopped up on something. They're all just in their billionaire brains thinking of ways to make people's lives miserable because they can. On top of the fact that he just got a $300 million contract from the government. $300 million contract from the government. So right now, they are running this. The corporations, private equity firms, tech bros, they are running this. Make no mistake about it. These politicians, they are the puppeteers. These people behind the scene, all of those people you saw standing behind Trump at his inauguration, they are running this. And I cannot wait for the AI bubble to burst, because eventually it will. However, if we don't start to pay attention and really start to come up with some alternative systems to what they're trying to do, and figure out ways to back out of this system that they are creating, we are going to be in trouble. If you listen to him talk and listen to his ideologies and listen to how he feels like the world should be run and what he hopes to do with his money, his power, and his access, y'all better pay attention. It is imperative that you pay attention to these people and listen to what they're trying to do. For those of us who are sane, it sounds very, very far-fetched when you listen to some of them speak. But they are married to these ideas in their mind. And they're using every bit of privilege, every dollar that they have to bring these things to pass. And so we cannot afford to just look at them and say, oh, they're crazy. And the way that they are infiltrating our American government system is through federal government contracts. This company, Palantir, just got a $300 million deal from the federal government, essentially running all of the information systems that's attached to all of the operations of the government. That is major. So this company exclusively is going to essentially be in charge of all of the informational systems that run this country. That should scare everybody. I'm sorry. That should scare everybody. So we got to pay attention, y'all. Period. The last thing I want to say about this administration is this, particularly Trump. It is not a small feat, y'all, that this president is trying to personalize American institutions. This is a classic hallmark of people who are aspiring to be dictators, because when they personalize and put so much of their personal identity in the fabric of a nation, of a country, it is hard to separate the two at a point. It is meant to be a way to deter a coup. Like, he don't want the American people to do what they did on January 6th, to oust him. So his acts to align this country's identity with his personality is very intentional. He is laying the groundwork for him to try to stay in office, y'all. He is trying to develop this cult-like nation that only follows him. He's been censoring the opposition, and now even more because Larry Ellison essentially owns all of the media. So the narrative coming from the media is going to align with whatever Trump wants it to align with, because these are the people who backed him, and for that backing, they're going to get to privatize everything that should be public. He has done a lot to attempt to develop a cult-like nation. Now, the glimpse of hope I have is that there are a lot of people that are waking up. So it's not going to go how he thinks it's going to go. I think at the point to where he is supposed to be leaving the White House, I think the American people will make sure that he does. Because we've had this vision of freedom for so long. We've been living this ideal life for so long. When unbeknownst to us, when you actually travel outside of this country, and you talk to people who are not American, we have been absolutely propagandized, but that's another topic for another day. But in America, we are, quote, free, unquote. And nobody's going to relinquish that resemblance of freedom without a fight. And so that is the glimmer of hope. However, just to be clear, the goal of this president is to make himself indispensable to the nation's stability. I'm not quite sure what it's going to take. I know what it's going to take. I'm not quite sure when we're going to get there. But I do see glimmers of hope. And so we shall see. This next story really surprised me, and I don't quite know what to do with this yet. But Congresswoman Ilhan Omar, the Somalian woman who is always in an exchange with Trump, she is usually on the right side of all things. She has been outwardly calling out this administration, its oppression, its acts. A staunch supporter of the Palestinian people, speaking openly about the genocide happening in Gaza. She has been the one who has been, for the most part, standing on the right side of the issues. However, what she said the other day was that We needed to start to embrace the people on the right who were Trump supporters and who have now seen the light. I don't think that's a good strategy. And honestly, I'm a little shocked that she would even suggest as much, because we know that those people who have broken with Trump for whatever reason, at this point, those people are simply trying to save whatever slight career, standing, political influence, whatever smidgen of anything they would have left before this ship totally sinks. The people that are and have, the people who have broken with Trump to this point, they've only done so to literally save themselves. The reasons that they have dropped Trump, if they have openly, has less to do with an awakening and more to do with saving themselves. They are not remorseful for what they've done and what they've aligned themselves with. They are not remorseful for calling for the oppression of Americans. They are not remorseful for trying to destabilize this country. They are not remorseful for their racist behaviors and rants and trying to institute policies that hurt the majority of Americans. They are not remorseful for any of those things. They are simply trying to save themselves from a ship that is going to sink. So for her to call for unity, no, sis, you misstep. That's not what we should be doing right now. And you saying that now makes me give you the side eye. Because if you can say that in this time, for me, what comes up is, what else are you conceding on? No, sis, that's not the move. The move is stand 10 toes with what you've been saying and doing and how you've been moving in Congress. Keep your eye on the prize. Don't worry about those who have so-called seen the light, because they have not seen the light. They are still moving in darkness. They are still moving in ways that are oppressive to the majority. Don't fall for that. And don't diminish your own standing by suggesting that we do. Moving right along. Mayor Zohran Mamdani, New York City mayor, Muslim, self-proclaimed socialist. Well, he just turned down an invitation to attend the Met Gala. Customary by most New York City mayors. They attend, they be a part of it. This is the art event of the city. Big event, huge event in New York. Huge fundraising event in New York. Well, Mamdani said, yeah, no, we're going to sit this one out. Rightfully so. Because Jeff Bezos is a chair. And Jeff Bezos, who owns Amazon, who is known for the exploitation of his workers, whose practices are known to exploit the environment, who is known to be a union buster, who is known for his monopolistic practices that drive small businesses out of business, a disgusting billionaire. He is chairing the Met Gala. And everything that Jeff Bezos is, Mamdani is the opposite. And so he's boycotting. And I support him in that decision. But you know who's not boycotting? Beyonce, who's the co-chair, Venus Williams, who's a co-chair. These are the people who, like I say on here all the time, these are the people and the voices who we need to be talking. The problem is they're not talking on our behalf. They're talking, but they're talking at the tables of the most elite. And they're not talking about the conditions that affect the 90% of Americans that is often spearheaded by these very people. They're not having those discussions because those discussions would kill their own interests. And so for the rest of us, you have to look at who our celebrities, the 1% of us, who are they aligning themselves with? And you have to make a decision for yourself. And so while we're having this discussion about Jeff Bezos and Amazon and how disgusting this billionaire is, we're going to transition to culture because we have another offender. So, Oprah just inked a deal with Amazon, a multi-year deal that includes her podcast, her library for her old TV show, the book club, the Favorite Things franchise, all the things. All the things. She signed an exclusive deal with Amazon. Now, this goes back to what I just said in the previous segment when I referred to the reasons why Zohran Mamdani was boycotting the Met Gala. It's these people. Like, Oprah has enough. She has enough. She has enough. She has a platform. She has a voice by which she could be speaking to conditions that could really make some changes for everybody else in the Black community. But she doesn't. She's not using her platform in that way. She's not using her platform in none of them. None of the multi-millionaire Black people are using their platforms in a way that would make it better for the rest of us. When you get to that level, it's just not how they choose to use it. There are no Nina Simones. I mean, I won't say no. Very few. Those of us who are speaking, for the most part, we don't really have anything to lose. Those of us who are speaking up, our voices are drowned out by the silence of the people who actually have the platform, the voices, the access, the money to really put forth any kind of change. So that's not their goal. That's not their mission. Their mission and goal is self-preservation. It's not to change the material conditions of everybody else, which is sad because art and artists, that's always been the vehicle by which change happens. And it's really sad that today's artistry has been bought and paid for by capitalism. And that's the truth of it. Will they do philanthropic acts here and there, give somebody something? She has a school. Yeah. But they're not going to do anything revolutionary. They're not going to do anything that's going to challenge the status quo or the establishment. They're not going to do those types of things. They're only going to go but so far. They're going to go far as acceptable. They're not going to cross that line. Very few cross that line. Because, and I mean, this can't go without being said, this country has shown what it does to the revolutionaries and the people who cross that line and the people who really are outward about change. Like, you can be successful and rich in this country and do well and have all the things, but you better talk that revolutionary stuff in the privacy of your own home. And when I say revolutionary, I don't mean we should be outside guns a-blazing, because we don't have enough guns. Okay, they can outgun us on any day. That's not what we need to be doing. What we need to be doing is non-violent community organizing that essentially creates an alternative system to the one that has been given to us. This American system has been given to us, so we are forced to participate. However, that's not the only way that civilization has occurred all the time. And there are ways, and there have been successful systems outside of capitalism. The way our ancestors did it in the 60s and before then was they had a necessity to create systems that was outside of the power structure. And they did. And it's that time again for the majority of us. Now, the Oprahs and the Tylers and the Jay-Z's and all of those people, they're going to have money that's going to shield them from the atrocities that are coming down the pike for anybody else not in that class. And so when I talk about revolution, I talk about creating alternative systems so that we're not reliant on the government for anything. And so, I mean, I don't know. But it brings me to my next topic. So did y'all see the NPR interview with Dave Chappelle? He was interviewed by journalist Michelle Martin. I watched the entire interview because I did not want to comment on clips that I was seeing. I, for the most part, attempt to do my due diligence before I get on here and start talking about things. And I listened to the entire interview. What I came away with, hands down, from Dave is that he does not feel that it is his responsibility to speak on the issues that I talked about previously. He does not feel like it's his responsibility to speak on the material conditions of society. He feels like the job is the job. If he feels personally moved about a thing, he will speak on it. But outside of that, he doesn't feel like he has any responsibility to speak on things. That's what I got out of that. He did a really good job in skating the hard questions, and Michelle didn't lean in. Like, I would have wanted to see her challenge him on the question where she asked him, not verbatim, but something to the effect of, why did he... So, before I even say that, he is on a press run because he just bought the radio station in Silver Springs, Ohio, where he lives, and that is a NPR affiliate. And he bought the station, remodeled it, and essentially now he owns the media in that community. And so Michelle asked him how would he handle stories where he was being criticized for whatever. Prior to her asking that question, though, she asked him, so why did he purchase the radio station? She alluded to the fact that he self-proclaimed himself a capitalist, a philanthropist, a person of service. So she asked him, so what was your motivation for buying the station? Under what pretense? And he said, well, I guess it's a little of all of it. And she moved on. Whereas I would have kind of drilled down on that question. So, from a capitalistic standpoint, how do you plan to use the station in times of disagreement with the general public and things that are happening? So she didn't drill down. He said that he responded in that way. I'm a little bit of all of it, and they moved on. The next question that he kind of glossed over was, she asked him how would he handle scrutiny by the station if it was about him. And he said, oh, we'll cross that bridge. Again, she didn't drill down on it. So are you going to be able to be objective when you're the one being criticized? Are the people who run the station going to feel free to even criticize you because you own the station? No. No, they're not. So Dave Chappelle is another one. I love Dave. I think that Dave is necessary, but he goes in the pot with the Oprahs and everything I just said about the other people that I've talked about. He does not feel the responsibility of talking about what's happening because he essentially is aligned with what's happening. He calls himself a capitalist. And it is not helpful to the rest of us if you simply want to be the oppressor. He's not. Dave will give you an anecdotal, he'll give you a story, he'll have a reference point. He will show you that he is connected to culture, but he's not going to do anything revolutionary that essentially would put him out of step with the upholding of capitalism, which is a evil economic system because of the distribution of wealth. But not for the people who actually do the things. These people wouldn't be as wealthy. These corporations wouldn't be as big. These stakeholders wouldn't be as happy. There are people that the bottom people make these corporations run. Yet these people are barely able to earn a decent wage, while stakeholders and CEOs get billions and billions on top of billions and billions. The distribution is not fair. It is inequitable. And so when you champion yourself, though, and akin yourself to that system and actually call yourself a capitalist, you can't serve both. You can't serve both. And if that's how you are self-described, then you don't serve both. So everything else, in my opinion, becomes performative. if your voice is not heard in the times in which it matters. So I'm standing on everything that I've ever said. I mean, these people they don't see themselves as having the responsibility of being the people who are supposed to affect change. I mean, like it or not, that's his position. That is what I interpret of what he said. Watch the interview for yourself. Maybe you'll feel differently. However, that's what I got from it. And so, as the Black community, we now need to assess how we interact with these people. I think that's the conversation that we're really not willing or ready to have. How do we interact with these people who have clearly drawn a line in the sand as to where their priorities are? They don't care about you, the average person. That is not where their priorities are. Your well-being, safety, that is not where their priorities are. So how are you, the regular person, going to interact with these people? Like, you still buying $1,000 Beyonce tickets? Why? I mean, we have to figure out as a community how we're going to address this, because it needs to be addressed. Because, in my opinion, they do have a responsibility. There's so few of them. There's a reason why many times you're the only Black person in the room, unless you're amongst the other 6 or 7 of y'all that are in that room. There's a reason why there'll never be 100,000 Jay-Z's or Dave Chappelle's or Oprah's or Tyler's. There's a reason why there are very few and far and in between. There's a reason for that. That is intentional. That is intentional. It is designed to be that way. Those people play a very important role in this society. They play a very important role in the upholding of capitalism. It's the rest of us that need to figure out how we're going to interact with capitalism. They have already chosen their route. A lot disappointing, to be honest, but I heard someone say something about Dave's wife, who we know is not Black. I believe she's from the Philippines, if I'm not mistaken. That is what it is. I don't have any commentary about who he decides to love. My commentary is specifically for how he decides to use his voice. And another thing that really struck me about Dave's interview, you can tell Dave is well studied. He is well versed. Dave knows what's going on. He talks about, because I think at the end of his show, he says something to the effect of love each other, laugh together, or something like that. And so Michelle did ask him about that, and he spoke very broadly about, we need to remember what it feels like to laugh together and to love each other, and remember the good times we've had together. And I'm like, what, nigga? It's always been up for Black and white people. We don't really have that history that you're talking about. But he kept referring to it. We will get past it together. We will get over it together. The it that he refused to name was white supremacy, bigotry, racism, police brutality, the industrial prison complex, sexism, homophobia. It's all the things that he identified as it, but refused to actually put a name on. Because when you speak those words out loud, then there is a sense of responsibility to speak to the harm done through those words. And as I've stated, he does not feel like that is his responsibility. And so, as a people, as Black people, We have to figure out how we deal with that. That's it. That's it. Moving right along. So, Barack and Michelle Obama's production company, Higher Ground Learning, is leaving a Netflix after their exclusive 8-year first look deal with Netflix. They are leaving to become an independent studio. Obviously, as an independent studio, this will open up their visibility in terms of their projects. They'll be able to work with more than one streamer. The move will allow them to work with multiple platforms like Apple TV and Amazon and HBO and all these other platforms to get greater distribution of their projects, and I would think more creative control. So I've watched a few of the projects that they produced. I know they produced Rustin, they produced The Descendants, they produced Becoming. They have a few that they've produced over the past few years. I've watched a good number of them. They put out really quality, solid work. So it'll be interesting to see how they move in the indie space as a production company or as a studio. It'll be interesting to see if they jump on the Amazon bandwagon. I would like to see them put out more stories about the history of this country, but I won't hold my breath because I just won't hold my breath. But anyway, moving right along. Last but not least, my New York Knicks play again tonight. The series is now tied 2-2. They lost before winning on Saturday. They lost 2 straight. I thought we were about to be tying this thing, getting rid of these Atlanta Hawks, but we are 2-2 and they play tonight. Can't wait to see that. So go New York, go. Knicks in 6. Let's go, y'all. We're moving right along. We're talking ethical entrepreneurship and anti-capitalism. Let's go. So somebody asked me, what did I mean when I say ethical entrepreneurship? Ethical entrepreneurship is a practice that promotes trust, transparency, fairness, positive social impact, and integrity. And as an entrepreneur, all that you are doing in the realm of your business, from how you treat your employees to how you service your clients to how you handle feedback from your customers, should all have those tenets that would make you an ethical entrepreneur and promote an environment based on those tenets that would allow the public to view you as an ethical entrepreneur. I think that when we talk about the big corporations, the bigger the corporations get, the more money they make, harder it is for them to maintain the tenets that would make them reach the standard of ethical entrepreneurialism. It's very hard when you're making billions and billions of dollars to prioritize your workers while trying to please your stakeholders. And so, in the practice of ethical entrepreneurship, you're going to weigh that cost because you know that without your customers, then there's no avenue to make the profits by which you pass on to your stakeholders. So, what I attempt to do in this segment is talk about ways in which you, as an ethical entrepreneur, can use those tenets as a baseline and at the same time make money. There's no law against making money. You want your company to be profitable. You want to see residuals coming from your work. You want to have a successful business. But in order to do that, you don't need to abandon the things that would make your company appealing to the people that you serve. There's no need to do that. And when we talk about these super large corporations, and specifically in America, the Amazons and the Starbucks and all of these organizations, eventually they get to a point where it's no longer beneficial to them to not exploit their workers because the profits are so high and the demand is so great for the profits to continue to get larger and larger, and them continue to satisfy their stakeholders more and more. And so the people on the bottom end of that process, the people who are actually doing the work to make the business and the brand big and grow, and to provide a means by which these companies are able to make all of that money, they get left in the dust. And we don't need to do that to be successful. And so, my goal in this segment is to usher in ways that entrepreneurs can succeed without doing that, without being disgusting, by upholding humanity, by being philanthropic. And specifically in this segment, I talk about, and specifically to women, and I talk a lot about women and their business, because for women we don't have the luxury of separating our businesses from all the other roles that we still must maintain while we are running and operating businesses. So we talk about all those things that come into play and a lot of time overlap with you being a businesswoman. And that is the way in which we discuss entrepreneurship. And it is also the way in which we discuss being anti capitalist. Because capitalism, despite what they are out here trying to sell you, it is propaganda. Capitalism is not good for anyone. It's only good for the people who reap the profits of capitalism. It's not good for anyone else. The distribution is too inequitable for it to be positive for the average person. And so, again, you don't need to be a capitalist to be a successful business person. You don't need to make sure that someone else is losing so that you can win. You can have a successful business and you can also be a good steward over that business, and how that business distributes its wealth generated by the workers who make that business successful. And so this segment is really dedicated to that. It's dedicated to that practice. And it's dedicated to entrepreneurs who are looking to operate businesses that meet those mandates. And so, in naming the segment, I was very intentional, as I am with all things. But specifically with this, I feel like if you're going to venture into the world of being an entrepreneur, then you want to be an honorable one. You want to be one who is respected. You want to be one who is successful and profitable and all of those things. But you also want to be a place where people want to work. You want to be a place where people are happy to work, where people feel like they are a part of the work and they can see their asset and their contributions to the goodness of the work. Outside of that, then what's the point? So, ethical entrepreneurship and how ethical entrepreneurs operate is very unique and different from how corporations operate in a capitalist society. And so I like to spend my time talking about how to meet those two goals of being a good human, operating a successful business, as a woman, being an entrepreneur and maintaining all of your other roles, and also controlling how you show up in the world. And so that is what this segment is intended to communicate. And with that, I am going to just give you 3 tips of ethical entrepreneurship. Tip number 1: people over profits. If you are aspiring to be an ethical entrepreneur, you must keep people over profits. Because it is the people who operate your business, who you want to serve, who ultimately benefits from your product or service. And how those people receive your company, see your company, interact with your company, how they are respected by your company, how they're treated when they come into relation with your company. All of that is important. And that should really be the priority. And we get lost when it's not. Tip number 2: embrace the ideology that says everyone in your business is an asset. The way that we get separated from the people part of the business is when we start to see the people who actually run our companies as part of the commodity. They're dispensable, they can just be replaced. No, the people are an asset. When you are seeing the humanity in everyone, from the janitor to the person who executes the sale, when you are viewing these people as assets, then it's hard to treat them badly. Everyone is an asset. There's no one higher than the other. They're going to have different titles based on their skills, experience, abilities, and all of those things. But first and foremost, they're all people. Everyone is an asset. Tip number 3: businesses come and go, but legacies are forever. How do you want your business to be remembered? What do you want people to say about your business? How do you want your business to be written about? And that is something that should be front and center on your mind from the day you first start your business. Because with that in mind, you then develop a brand that lives out those principles and aligns with who you want people to see your business as. And those become your brand markers. That becomes what people associate with your business and how people view your business. So, those are three things that are really important in this evolution of becoming an ethical entrepreneur. The young lady did, I forget her name and I apologize, but thank you for asking me to explain that. And with that, we're moving on to Black Facts. In today's segment of Black Facts, we're honoring Coretta Scott-King, who shares a birthday with my grandmother, Mama, April 27th. Coretta Scott-King was born on April 27th, 1927 in Marion, Alabama, the widow of slain civil rights leader Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. She dedicated her life to creating world peace and equality as part of nurturing her husband's dream. A graduate of Lincoln High School in Marion, she attended Antioch College in Yellow Springs, Ohio on a scholarship. Majoring in music and elementary education, Coretta received her bachelor's degree in 1951. One last thing about her time at Antioch. During that time, she worked as a babysitter and used to babysit John Lithgow. Yeah, the actor from Third Rock from the Sun fame. Blessed with a beautiful voice, Coretta accepted a scholarship to the New England Conservatory of Music in Boston. It was there she met a young Martin who was affectionately called ML. Needless to say, ML and CS became Mr. and Mrs. MLK. In 1954, she earned her Bachelor's of Music degree in voice and piano. During their trips abroad, she would often sing on the same program that Martin spoke. As a civil rights activist, she displayed incredible strength, courage, and generosity of her family and her people. After Dr. King's death, Coretta continued the struggle for social change. As a matter of fact, just 4 days after Martin's assassination, she led a massive demonstration in Memphis, calling for peace during the riots across the nation due to his murder. Coretta, an honorary member of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority, Inc., led the efforts to make MLK a national holiday. And with the signature of President Ronald Reagan on November the 3rd, 1983, a yearly celebration of remembrance began. CS and ML were reunited on January 30th, 2006. Coretta Scott-King was the first Black person to ever lie in state at the Georgia State Capitol. Our Black Facts are brought to you by Black Heritage App. The Black Heritage App is an app that provides Black facts for every day of the year. While this is not an ad, I support the app and I encourage you to download it. Thank you so much for joining me. Last but not least, T state, as Black people, we are responsible for one another. And I think that we should forget the people who have forgotten that. That's it. That's all. I love y'all. Thank y'all for joining me for another episode of LAH-TEE-YAH in the Lead. I am so happy that that's it. That's all. I love y'all. Thank y'all for joining me for another episode of LAH-TEE-YAH in the Lead. Thank you for downloading. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for sharing, liking, commenting, all the things. Just thank you for being in community with me. I appreciate it. I'm proud of what we're building here. I'm proud of what we're doing. And I look forward to seeing you again next time. Until then, y'all take care of one another. We are one another's responsibility. Don't forget that. I love y'all. Good night.